HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Captain America vs. Iron Man, Freedom, Security, Psychology. Edited by Travis Langley. Read by Kevin T. Collins and Reba Buhr. Starring Captain America. Creators Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Debut Captain America Comics No. 1, 1941, March. Meet Captain America. Script Joe Simon. Art Jack Kirby and Al Leiderman. Revival The Avengers No. 4, 1964, March. Captain America joins the Avengers. Script Stan Lee. Art Jack Kirby and George Roussos. First theatrical appearance, Captain America, 1944 movie serial, Republic Pictures. Iron Man. Creators Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby. Debut Tales of Suspense No. 39, 1963, March. Iron Man is born. Script Stan Lee. Art Jack Kirby and Don Heck. First theatrical appearance, Iron Man, 2008 motion picture, Marvel Studios, Fairview Entertainment. The Publisher. It's all Marvel. Captain America, Iron Man, and related Marvel Universe characters originate in publications from Marvel Comics. The company has undergone several name changes during its history. Timely Publications, founded in 1939, soon renamed Timely Comics. Atlas Comics, new company name starting in 1951. Marvel Comics, rebranded in summer 1961. Official company name has been Marvel Publishing, Marvel Comics Group, and Marvel Worldwide. Parent company, Marvel Enterprises, then Marvel Entertainment, part of the Walt Disney Company as of 2009. Location, New York, New York. Because most comics cited herein were published by Timely, Atlas, Marvel, references will identify a comic book's publisher only for the few instances in which an outside company such as DC published the work. Foreword. The Head, the Heart, the Heroes. Stan Lee. I've never studied psychology officially, but all around us, everything in the world involves psychology. The way you behave with other people, the image you want to leave of yourself with other people, your association with other people, everything you say, everything you do is linked to psychology. That's what I wanted to bring to our superheroes. Steve Rogers wasn't the first superhero dressed in the American flag, but he became the most popular. I think it was because he was drawn so well by Jack Kirby, and because Joe Simon's stories were really very exciting in the early days. Captain America had heart. Some people call Iron Man the brains of the Avengers and Captain America the heart, and I think that comes really close to it. After we brought Captain America back, and then he led the Avengers for the first time, the entire team was made up of former criminals like the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Cap is a big believer in second chances. Anybody would be a believer in that if they're logical and if they have the slightest bit of sympathy for other people. Anybody can make a mistake. And if you can find somebody who's made a mistake and you can put them on the right track, what a wonderful thing that is to do. Captain America was the quintessential World War II hero, and then Iron Man came out of a different war with a different generation. I wanted to have fun with Iron Man. I took all the things the hippies hated, and I let Iron Man represent them. He was a guy who made munitions. He helped the nation's war effort. He was a billionaire, a ladies' man. I thought, it will be fun to see if I can make him popular. Funny thing is, he became incredibly popular with female readers. We had more fan mail from females for Iron Man than any other character. I think the thing that really makes Tony Stark so appealing is that he is a little bit of an egomaniac. He's conceited, but he has every reason to be conceited. I mean, here's a guy who's handsome, he's a billionaire, he's a fighter, he's an inventor, and he's also got a weak heart. You can't get a more interesting guy than that. If I were creating a character now, it would probably be closer to Iron Man. Captain America is wonderful, but he's just such a perfect human being. I think you can have more fun with people who have a little more imperfection. That's Marvel in a nutshell. In Civil War, these heroes tussle over whether superheroes should register with the government. I don't see anything wrong with registering. If that would make life easier and make people happier, it's fine with me. If the heroes want to do it, and if the government wants them to do it, why not? Of course, Captain America's experience against enemies like Hydra differs from Iron Man's, enemies who want to infiltrate the government and take over S.H.I.E.L.D. When we created Hydra, I wanted them to be a mysterious group who, if you kill one, 100 others appear. You can't get rid of them. In fact, I even wrote a saying that they had, "Hail Hydra, immortal Hydra, we shall never be destroyed. Cut off a limb, and 2 more shall take its place. We serve none but the Master, as the world shall soon serve us. Hail Hydra." They are sort of like ISIS today. There are so many of them, and if you kill a few, it doesn't mean anything. There are a lot more. Captain America and Iron Man oppose them and all the other villains because they're the good guys, and in fiction, the good guys keep on fighting as long as there's something to fight for. And thanks to groups like Hydra, there will always be something to fight for, and that always gives us great stories to write. Who's in the right? Captain America, the self-sacrificing hero, or Iron Man, the war profiteer? They're both right. I think it's possible to be all kinds of different people with different personalities, and you can all be right. The point is, both of them do good things. Both of them are good to other people, and they make the world a better place in their own way. Which one I root for depends how you position them in the story. There are places where Captain America can shine, and there are places where you just have to have Iron Man. As a writer, you put the character in the right place at the right time, and where the reader would appreciate him the most. I think that anybody reading these stories about these characters should just sit back and expect to be amazed and astonished by Captain America versus Iron Man, and hopefully to see things that they hadn't expected to see, things that they'll enjoy because they're so provocative. Excelsior! Introduction. The shield, the armor, and the basic human dilemma. Travis Langley. The first time I chatted with Stan Lee, we discussed his intuitive psychology. He and his co-creators brought human depth to Marvel superheroes at a time when other comic book superheroes were often a bit flat. His heroes bickered among themselves, worried about paying bills, sometimes had health problems, and felt conflicted about their actions. Ego and angst often drove them, and they would call one another on those very things. Well, that's what we talked about after getting past the fact that I'd written a book about a character not of his creation, one with such complexity that the Avengers filmmaker Joss Whedon once called him a Marvel character in the DC universe. Stan, Batman? Why would you want to write a book about him? Travis, he's more screwed up than your characters. Stan, this man is a genius. A more thorough answer to Stan's question might, in part, also apply to why we analyze Captain America and Iron Man, simply because they share some of the same qualities that make that Dark Knight so popular. They're human. Not only do they start off fully human in their origin stories, they remain human, and it shows. Even though each of them excels in areas of intellect, physical skill, and sheer determination, neither has the kind of ability people typically think of as a superpower. Their talents are more believable than shape-shifting, mind-reading, turning invisible, or controlling the weather. We can relate to them and their motives. Although every superhero becomes a hero because of his or her psychology, most are super for fantastic reasons beyond their control. A few, though, choose to become super, to turn themselves into larger-than-life figures while remaining fully human. Not only does making a choice to do the right thing look more heroic, it feels more altruistic to the hero as well, and reinforces the heroism and sense of capability in that individual's nature. Steve Rogers could lose the muscle the super soldier project added to his frame, and Tony Stark could lose access to his money and fancy toys, yet they'll both still have the kinds of minds and passion that turned them into the heroes in the first place. Each would persist. Because they seem more intrinsically heroic, they are therefore figures the other heroes will more readily follow into any situation. Unfortunately for them, the humanity Stan and company invested in them can also put them at odds. Genuine tragedies in the world are not conflicts between right and wrong. They are conflicts between two rights. Attributed to philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. On the large scale, the story told in Civil War numbers 1 through 7 and related Marvel publications depicts armies of superheroes fighting over a congressional act that requires all superhumans to register their abilities and identities with the federal government, undergo training, and serve the government whether they like it or not. It was not the first story to look at what might happen if the government tries to regulate superheroes. Comic books and graphic novels, e.g. Kingdom Come, Watchmen, motion pictures, The Return of Captain Invincible, The Incredibles, and television programs, Smallville, had all visited that terrain. Civil War explored it across a comic book company's entire mainstream line, altering character relationships and affecting stories for years to come in a way no other crossover event had previously achieved. Across these many stories, characters who become registration supporters typically hold that registering is the responsible thing to do, and that no one should place himself or herself above the law. Opponents of registration argue instead that such regulation violates civil liberties, with some comparing it to segregation or slavery, and insist that no government is secure enough. A government that cannot protect its own secrets, therefore cannot protect superheroes and their loved ones from the supervillains they spend their lives fighting. On the most personal level, though, it's a fight between two men. From when they each debut, Steve Rogers, Captain America, fights for freedom, and Tony Stark, Iron Man, develops weapons for national security. Neither position is out of character. They have often fallen on opposite sides of what Erich Fromm called the basic human dilemma: freedom versus security. No problem has put them at such odds over it before. Sociologist turned psychologist Erich Fromm fled his homeland when the Nazis rose to power. He tried to make sense of why members of the German population, suffering from the Great Depression, gave up so many of their liberties for seeming security under a dictatorial regime. He concluded that people feel competing desires for both freedom and security. Fear can drive people to relinquish freedom to feel safe and secure, and yet oppression can drive them to tear down the system in order to breathe free. The conflict can cycle back and forth without end. Comic book writers Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Miller conceived Marvel's Civil War in the wake of 9/11, when the USA Patriot Act limited liberties and broadened the government's abilities. Whether they knew it or not, they pitted hero against hero in a superpowered illustration of what Fromm called the basic human dilemma, the clash between freedom and security. This book's contributors compare and contrast these heroes' psyches in a variety of ways. It's not all about one climactic confrontation between characters. We examine stories spun over the course of decades, the better part of a century, in looking at the superheroes and how their experiences reflect the psychology of real human beings. Captain America and Iron Man emerge as different types of leaders for many reasons relating to their personalities, life experiences, and motivations, and these stories do much more than entertain us. They speak to us as occupants of a world where we regularly must consider personalities, life experiences, and motivations of many kinds. Within these pages, our super team of psychologists and therapists, sometimes joined by other experts, share their musings as both professionals and fans. We are particularly grateful to Stan the Man Lee for joining us. He created Iron Man together with Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby. Lee and Kirby soon assembled the Avengers, and then brought Captain America into the team. By killing off his boy sidekick Bucky and making Cap a man out of his time, they added poignancy and additional depth to the character Kirby had co-created with Joe Simon long before. We thank them all for giving us these heroes, and we thank Stan in particular for this book's marvelous foreword. During that first conversation of ours, the Master of Marvels also told me, "You should teach Stan Lee University." So I soon taught a class using heroes Lee co-created to illustrate principles of psychology, and Stan answered my students' questions. With Captain America versus Iron Man, freedom, security, psychology, we're taking that a bit further. And you don't have to choose sides. The more we face our own conflicts and seek out our own solutions, the more inner freedom and strength we will gain. Psychoanalyst Karen Horney. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Author Thomas Paine. A Tale of Two Egos. Science, history, and hindsight show us that as a conflict escalates, participants on both sides can lose sight of why it began. It grows increasingly personal, particularly for the leaders. Whoever leads the losing side, if anyone wins at all, can be seen as the losing general, manager, or coach. The comic book version of Civil War ends when one leader surrenders for the sake of protecting others the conflict might harm, when he gives up an apparent victory rather than risk harming others, when he values peace over the point he has been trying to make, and even above his own self-esteem. Civil War is not the first fight between Captain America and Iron Man. Superheroes have a long history of getting into skirmishes with one another over their egos or as a result of misunderstandings. A few months after the Avengers thaw out Captain America and welcome him to the team, a villain impersonates Captain America and tricks Iron Man into attacking Cap. After they finally clear things up, Iron Man sits berating himself as he mulls over how easily the villain fooled him. Sometimes I grow overconfident in my super-powered armor. Assessing the harm of one's own overconfidence indicates a degree of personal insight that suggests that the person does not have the condition known as narcissistic personality disorder. Even though Tony Stark's ego is huge, and he does possess a number of narcissistic qualities, he has achievements commensurate with his self-concept and tries to keep his ego in check throughout his character arc.
Part 1. Origins. An origin story opens in the middle, after personality has spent years taking shape, after awareness of things people call good and evil has long since begun to bloom. One classic theory in psychology posits that morality develops in stages. The part that stays with us may have less to do with who's right or wrong, and more to do with the reasoning that goes into making moral choices in the first place. Chapter 1. Moral Decisions in Marvel's Civil War, Stages of Hero Development. Mara Wood. A moral principle is an obligatory or ideal rule of choice between legitimate alternatives rather than a concrete prescription of action. Developmental psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg. The best part about being an Avenger? Having Captain America around you all the time. The guy just brings out the absolute best in people. You want to be good when he's around. Clint Barton, Hawkeye. Good people can get into a fight. In the comic books, after working together for years, Captain America and Iron Man wing up, leading opposite sides in a superhero fight over a law that requires all superhumans to register with the government, trust the system to protect their secret identities, receive training, and work in law enforcement whether they want to or not. Everyone in a dispute may be a bit wrong and a bit right for a variety of reasons. One classic theory on stages of moral development may help us understand the perspectives of the characters involved in Marvel's Civil War storyline, or any real dispute, as well as the rationale for decisions made and actions taken. Different individuals can demonstrate all 6 stages of moral development on both sides of the issue. As Dr. Strange comments, "There is no right or wrong in this debate. It is simply a matter of perspective." Stages of moral development. At any specific moment, we must be able to make decisions about what we consider right and wrong. These decisions are often unique to the decision maker. Consider the following moral dilemma. A woman had a special kind of cancer that could be cured by a new drug discovered by a druggist nearby. However, the druggist was charging 10 times what the drug cost him to make. The woman's husband could not afford the drug, and the druggist refused to alter his price. The husband stole the drug. Should he have done that? Lawrence Kohlberg's studies of morality and moral development in children and adolescents hinged on situations like the one involving the husband and the druggist. He presented boys with this scenario and others with equally ambiguous answers. It was not the answer per se that intrigued Kohlberg, but the reasoning behind the boys' decisions. The right answer can be debated, but the path to the decision allows for insight into the moral development of the boy. From his initial study of morality and moral development, Kohlberg concluded that humans move through 6 main stages divided into 3 levels, each one named for the way it relates to conventional views on moral dilemmas. Pre-conventional level. I'm sorry, but I don't want to end up in this super jail like Wiccan. Cassie Lang, a.k.a. Stature. A person using pre-conventional moral reasoning responds to cultural rules and understands the labels of good and bad, but actions and decisions are primarily a result of the person's own hedonistic consequences or the influence of those in power over the person. Stage 1. Punishment and obedience orientation. The physical consequences of the action determine whether it is good or bad. There is no concern with human value. Stage 2. Naive instrumental hedonism. What is right directly benefits and satisfies the decision-maker. Things are viewed in a pragmatic way. The pre-conventional stages reflect decisions that are based on pleasure and pain. 2 examples of decisions in Civil War that are based on Kohlberg's first stage occur when 2 minor characters make the jump from Captain America's team to Iron Man's. When the hero Nighthawk pleads with Captain America to join Iron Man's side, he argues that their allies' arrest and one hero's death should be enough to prove they are in the wrong. The heroine called Stature, Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie Lang, says she does not want to go to jail like her friends, and therefore the basis of her decision to join Iron Man and support registration is the fear of punishment. Neither Nighthawk nor Stature mentions any indication of more advanced moral reasoning, such as respect for the underlying moral order. Their primary concern is personal safety. As Iron Man works to gather supporters for the Superhuman Registration Act, he employs several tactics. One tactic is the emphasis on punishment and reward. For example, when he visits Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, he reminds them that the act can give them financial benefits and keep them out of jail. Cage and Jones refuse to side with Iron Man, citing the types of role models they want to be for their daughter and their community. Their decision to abstain from voting reflects the higher moral development found in Stage 6, one that is centered on the dignity of others and universal rights. Iron Man also appeals to Stage 2 moral decision-making when he asks Emma Frost to help him get the X-Men support. If the X-Men will join his side, he argues, they can win favor with the government. He understands the strained relationship mutants have had with authority, and he hopes Emma will take advantage of his proposition to further the needs and desires of the X-Men. Unfortunately for him, his invitation falls on deaf ears, as Emma claims neutrality. This is an example of avoiding the process of decision-making found in Kohlberg's second stage of moral development. Conventional level. The public doesn't want masks and secret identities. They want to be safe when we're around, and there's no other way to win back their respect. Iron Man. In conventional moral reasoning, people value the maintenance of social order, as in the family and community. There is a degree of conformity and loyalty to the existing social order. Stage 3. Good boy morality, maintaining good relations and approval of others. Approval for being nice is a driving force. Conformity to social stereotypes emerges here. Stage 4. Authority maintaining morality. The emphasis is on following the law and performing one's duty as a member of the society to which the person belongs. The majority of the moral decisions made in Civil War are classified in the conventional and post-conventional levels. In the third stage, characters' actions are driven by societal acceptance and perception of being good. By advocating for the Superhuman Registration Act, Iron Man wins public favor. People cheer his efforts, and the reinforcement from society suggests that he may be right in his choice. His alliance with a non-superhuman public figurehead helps guide him toward acting in a way that the public wants to see. Public opinion is not the only thing driving Iron Man. His decision to push the Superhuman Registration Act earns him high regard from several government officials, such as the President of the United States. Other heroes exhibit moral decisions characteristic of this stage. Spider-Man initially sides with Iron Man, and his actions are understood to be guided by good intentions. She-Hulk, who is a lawyer and firm supporter of Iron Man, recognizes the act as a response to public opinion. Decisions made in this stage rely on the perception and approval of society in general. Stage 4 of Kohlberg's moral development reflects a person's respect for the law and the authority figures behind it. It is not so much a fear of punishment for breaking the law as an understanding that maintaining the law maintains society. Iron Man brings up the importance of becoming legitimate in the eyes of society in general. He sees this duty as an extension of his role as a protector. There is also probably a hefty amount of guilt relating to the deaths of many children that initiated the enactment of the act. By the end of Civil War, Iron Man becomes the authority figure others must respect and follow. Iron Man is not fully confident in his deference to authority and law during this conflict. In conversations with his close confidants, there is an emphasis on just how difficult it is for him to support the Superhuman Registration Act. Captain America, most notably, does not operate in this stage. Aligning with Stage 4 indicates that the person values the maintenance of social order above all else. When Captain America is called on by S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Maria Hill to uphold the social order, he refuses to act against his friends. Heroes like Luke Cage and Daredevil are street-level protectors, he argues, and the law has the potential to harm them and their families. Hill does not see Captain America's refusal as a moral act. Instead, she equates his behavior with that of a villain. Hill is not the only one who condemns Captain America's actions in breaking the law. post-conventional level. Don't play politics with me, Hill. Superheroes need to stay above that stuff or Washington starts telling us who the supervillains are. Captain...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?